The shuttle breached the orbital silence like a scalpel through silk sleek, dark and unmarked save for a single insignia on the hull, a silver Earth emblem wrapped in laurel. No escort, no flags, no broadcasted arrival, just a whisper of thrusters, and the faint hum of absolute confidence. The outer deck of Station Syndril 9 neutral ground above. The war-torn world of Marnak 6 was ringed with ships from over 20 species, warhawks, hive barges, cloaked Dominion crafts. Everyone was here. No one expected Earth to show, with only 2 passengers. The shuttle door hissed open. A woman stepped out, her white diplomatic cloak fluttering against the artificial gravity wind. Sharpid.com. Every motion deliberate. No weapons, visible just a data slate, held loosely in one hand. Elira Voss, senior diplomatic envoy of the Terran Accord. Behind her came a single figure, tall and armored in matte black. His helmet bore no faceplate, no rank, no markings, only a red-tinted visor, glowing faintly beneath the collar of his armor. No one knew his name, and for 3 minutes, no one would want to. Inside the grand convocation hall, carved from alloyed stone and laced with anti-psionic wards, the tension was molasses thick. Dozens of alien envoys lined the circular chamber, scaled, feathered, shelled, pulsing with bioluminescence and blood-warm hate. 2 empires on the verge of annihilation, sitting 10 meters apart and pretending they could stand the sight of each other. The Verati Hive clan delegation perched atop multi-jointed legs, fanged mandibles clicking in ritual disapproval. The Kalari Dominion radiated heat, their gill vents steaming in irritation, armored tails twitching beside ceremonial blades. When Elira entered, the room fell into an uneasy hush. Whispers slithered across the chamber. Only 2. Where is her escort fleet? Is this arrogance or a trap? Elira approached the central speaking platform without breaking stride. The armored man followed 3 paces behind her, silent as a drawn blade. The Verati War Chancellor chittered something in his native clicks before growling in Standard Galactic. You come to mediate the fate of 2 empires, with no guard. No show of force. No caution. We thought the Terrans valued peace. Elira looked at him, unflinching, then to the Kalari Prime Legate, whose 4 eyes flared in suspicion. She smiled softly. You asked for neutrality. We honored it. The Kalari scoffed. And if we decide to tear you apart, instead of sign your pretty treaties? Elira's gaze flicked to her companions, till unmoving. Then you will see exactly why Earth doesn't need fleets anymore. Silence. The kind that pricks under skin. The Verati laughed an awful, scraping buzz. 1 Terran soldier. That's your deterrent. Elira stepped onto the dais and placed her data slate on the podium. We brought enough. Behind her, the armored man turned his head a fraction. Just a fraction dot above them. Within the decorative lattice of the ceiling, something clicked, so faint it could have been a trick of the recycled air. But the man in black tilted his head again, listening below the table of the Kalari delegation. A claw reached toward a hidden sheath. A soft tremor rippled beneath the floor. An unauthorized power spike. The man stepped forward, just once. The motion was fluid, measured, like a predator remembering the taste of old instincts. Elira paused. The Verati noticed. What is he? And then the lights blinked once. Once the chamber doors slammed shut, and 3 minutes later, it would all be over. A moment of stillness followed the slam of the chamber doors. But it wasn't silenced HumAlien. It was screaming, his visor lit with overlaid HUD data, sound spikes, magnetic distortion, pulsed thermals in the ceiling, duck-strong temperatures. Someone was crawling. 7 heat signatures hidden above the Verati delegation. 2 more in the floor panels. The summit was a lie. This was a death box. Arik's hand drifted not to his weapon, but to the small black stud at the base of his neck. A quiet switch. It slid into place with a mechanical click. Instinct protocol. Armed behind him, Illyra hadn't moved. She knew. A soft scrape echoed. A minor, dismissible sound unless you'd lived through 47 live combat theaters, 12 planetary conflicts, and 3 off-the-books extraction ops. Unless you were Arik. His body shifted barely a centimeter, placing himself directly between Ela and the Kalari. Across the room, the Kalari Primarch slid his ceremonial knife beneath the table. His smallest twitch signaled the 3 assassins in the ducts. Above the room, the air shifted thin and charged with synthetic pheromone triggers. Then the tremor came, a dull, pulsing thud beneath the chamber floor. Energy resonance from a quantum disruptor warming up a illicit band, and unmistakably lethal. No one else noticed. They weren't supposed to. Illyra turned her head just enough to speak. Arik. His reply was simple. 10 hostiles, engaging in 5. The Varadi War Chancellor rose to his full height, claws clattering against the steel. I propose we begin with a list of war crimes by the Kalari Dominions, starting with their annihilation of High Fleet Neuraxis. Falsehoods, hissed the Kalari Primarch. Fabrications. You glassed the Arisian moons. Eric's voice cut through the air like a blade. 4. The envoys turned. Illyra stepped down from the dais, her white cloak catching the low amber light. We strongly recommend resuming this conversation after the next 3 minutes. Confused glances, scoffs. A few shifted uneasily. 3. One of the Kalari aides leaned forward, whispering into the Primarch's ear. 2. Above them, something fell. Not a bomb, not a weapon, just a drop of warm fluid. Red. 1. Arik moved. He didn't draw his weapon. Not yet. He leaped up straight into the ceiling. A flash of black armor. The scream of an assassin, as bone crunched and metal twisted. A headless body fell from above, cratering the floor beside the Kalari Prime Legate. Panic erupted. A Varati warrior lunged for his pulse rifle to slow. Arik landed behind him. One strike crushed the thorax. Another dislocated all 4 limbs in 2 seconds. Plasma bolts whined. The Kalari sidearm came up. Arik caught the shooter's wrist, mid-flicker, redirected the bolt into the face of a Varati lieutenant. No pause. The Kalari's elbow shattered a second later. Illyra didn't flinch. She walked calmly back toward the dais. Overhead lights shattered. The chamber dropped into half-dash shadow. Screams. Guards scrambled. Delegates ran for sealed exits, locked tight by override. The floor panels erupted as 2 mercenaries burst out, aiming particle repeaters. Arik dove. The repeaters fired. Too late. He rolled under the blast, then threw a dagger straight through the reinforced eye socket of the first. The second opened. Arik vanished behind a Varati corpse, then closed the distance and slammed a kinetic fist into his chestplate. Armor. Crumpled ribs followed. 2 minutes had passed. Half the room was either unconscious, dead, or too terrified to move, and Arik hadn't even pulled his primary weapon yet. You brought 1 soldier. The Kalari Prime Legate gasped, coughing blood. Illyra looked down at him. We brought an answer. 1 o'clock remaining. The chamber was chaos. Not disorganized, panic, predatory chaos. The kind that comes when apex killers stop pretending to be civilized. Varati stingers fired blindly. Kalari blades swept in arcs of liquid flame. Shields flickered. Bodhis screamed. And through it all, HumAlien moved like time obeyed him. He twisted past a razor arc, seized the Varati wielder by the wrist, snapped it, then used the dying body as a meat shield to absorb a full plasma burst, his visor highlighted. A cloaked figure shifting near the far wall. Stealth tech. Kalari assassin cast. Camouflage disrupted by internal bleeding. Target acquired. Arik dropped the corpse, rolled forward, pulled his sidearm not to shoot, but to throw it. The weighted pistol struck the shimmer midair. It screamed as cloaking failed. Arik was already there, a knee to its throat before it could breathe. He drove it into the wall with enough force to crack alloy plating. The assassin slumped. Arik didn't check twice. Alira Voss stood in the middle of it all, untouched, unmoved. The automated shielding of her diplomatic badge pulsed faintly, enough to repel stray blasts, but no one dared aim at her. Because Eric was still breathing. 042 of Arati Elite rose behind Alira. 4 blades extended, stealth quiet. Eric didn't look, didn't shout. He fired a flechette, burst backwards, over Alira's shoulder, never breaking stride. 4 spikes embedded in the Vorithi's skull before it could blink. Lira exhaled, still sharp, always. A Kalari warrior, activated. A neural displacer, legal in 21 systems. Reality warped around it. Walls buckled. Delegates collapsed, screaming as light fractured like broken glass. Eric's HUD compensated in 0.04 seconds. He blinked, pivoted into the distortion and disappeared. Inside the distortion bubble, time stuttered. The Kalari looked up. Eric was already behind him. 1 strike pressure point. Spinal override. The Kalari dropped. Arik walked out of the bubble before it collapsed, as if nothing had happened. 019, a voice crackled on the chamber's PA, an authorized feed. Override. An unseen commander, watching from orbit. Override all failsafes. Detonate the room. We can't let the humans have this victory. Too late. Arik had heard it. He raced to the wall console, yanked it open, plunged his armored hand inside, and ripped out the fusion trigger core. He crushed it in his fist. The lights flickered, stayed on. His visor glowed brighter. 007. The final attacker, a Kalari. Cyan tried to reach into Arik's mind. Her eyes flared with blue flame. Arik stared at her. She froze, blinked. Her flame died. Out. Nothing. He was empty, unreadable. No fear, no hate, no pain, just purpose. A blank wall of violence wrapped in a calm face. She screamed as her brain fried itself from the feedback loop. Eric never touched her. 0 o'clock. The chamber fell silent. Severed limbs smoked on marble floors. Cracked helmets. Broken claws. Every delegate alive was either cowering, bleeding, or both. Only two Terrans remained standing. One soaked in alien blood, visor humming softly. The other calm, untouched, cloak unstained. Alira adjusted her sleeve and looked at the Varadi and Kalari leaders. You scheduled this summit to end in blood. We simply agreed. The chamber doors hissed open with a final clang as external overrides released the seal. A flood of armed security personnel from Station Syndral 9 stormed in, fully armored, weapons raised, expecting a bloodbath. They found one, just not the kind they understood. The air was thick with the scorched stench of melted chitin, ionized blood, and smoking circuitry. Corpses lay in strange, twisted poses, some dismembered, others intact, but wide-eyed with terror. And in the center of the devastation stood two figures, one human woman, in white, elegant and poised, and one human man, helmet still on, visor glowing, crimson, like the last ember of a dying war. Arik didn't move. He didn't need to. His work was done. A Geronix medic gagged at the sight of a Varati delegate split from mandibles to thorax. A Trinary officer lowered his rifle and whispered, "This wasn't combat. This was surgery." The room had no signs of wild struggle. Every body was placed with disturbing efficiency. None wasted, none spared by accident. Not a single shot had missed. No damage to the chamber walls. No friendly fire. Every death was chosen. The Kalari Prime Legate sat slumped against the far pillar, arms shattered, chest wheezing. He stared at Arik. You let it happen. You could have stopped it sooner." Alira turned to him with surgical calm. "We did." Her voice echoed in the scorched silence like a judge's gavel. "Earth didn't come to negotiate," she continued. "We came to remind you what we've become." She tapped her data slate. Behind her, a hologram projected into the air. Timestamps, sensor logs, heat maps of the entire encounter. 2 minutes, 59 seconds. Every kill, every move, logged, verified, timed. A voice played on the recording. Larez. Voice. Before the first strike. We strongly recommend resuming this conversation after the next 3 minutes. They had warned them, and they hadn't listened. Eric stepped forward. The security teams, tensed but didn't fire. He knelt beside one of the dead mercs, reached into the vest, pulled out a data shard encrypted, but Earth tech would crack it in seconds. He turned to Alira and gave a subtle nod. Outside actors, he said. Not just the Verati or Kalari. Exactly what we needed, she said. This wasn't just sabotage. This was orchestration. She looked up at the delegates. You were manipulated into this bloodbath. But only Earth had the restraint to walk into a trepanned spring at ourselves. From the rear of the room, a voice trembled. You could have just told us, whispered a Marnathi observer. Revealed the plot, shown us the data. Alira met his eyes, cold and steady. And if we had, would either empire have believed it? Or would they have accused Earth of fabricating lies for influence? The room went silent. A slow, heavy clunk echoed. Arik disengaged his helmet. The room held its breath. He was human. Just a man. No cybernetics. No grotesque mods. Not even a scar. But his eyes. There was no color in them. Just gray steel. The kind you find in old weapons buried in soil long after the war. He spoke. We're not your enemies. But if you force us to remember how to be, we won't hesitate. He set his helmet on the ground, blood still dripping from its edge. Alira stepped back onto the center dais, calmly, like this was still a scheduled meeting. The summit will reconvene in 1 hour. He will bring new delegates, real ones. Number. Saboteurs. No knives hidden in sleeves. She looked down at the torn remains of the would-be assassins. And you will remember, diplomacy is not your right. It's our gift. It took Eric Malin 3 minutes to reset galactic diplomacy. It took the rest of the galaxy 3 hours to panic across the Orion cluster. Hyperspace comes ignited with encrypted chatter in the Verati high nest. War chancellors screamed at one another, antennae rattling with fury. Pull back our fleets from Sector 12. Earth is stalling, buying time for occupation. Earth isn't stalling, said one voice, softer, older. Earth is warning us, and that's far worse. In the Kalari Dominion, a Shadow Council met in a pressure-sealed chamber, 10 levels beneath the capital. Hollis of the incident played over and over, frame dash by dash frame. Eric, twisting through plasma fire, catching a bolt, redirecting it, breaking bone, with surgical efficiency. A Dominion general slammed his clawed fist into the steel table. No psionics, no enhancements, just training. No species in our archives has ever fought like that. An intelligence officer replied. He wasn't fighting, he was managing. The most terrifying detail. Arik Malin didn't kill everyone. He chose. He let half of them live, and that sent a colder message than mass slaughter ever could. Elsewhere, far from official councils and diplomatic fallout, others watched the footage with different eyes. The Syndicate's board of assassins analyzed his every move. 3 minutes, whispered a Brelic contract killer, pausing the feed. 17 kills, not one wasted step. Imagine what the humans haven't shown, said another, in the shattered moons of Kravix. A mercenary warband watched the footage over black market relays. Their leader, a half-machine Korak brute, turned to his second. We ever get contracted to hit a human envoy? Run, said the second. Every time. Just run. On Earth, ... The video wasn't leaked. It was released officially. The footage of the attack, the 3-minute response, the time-stamped precision it, was uploaded to every diplomatic net across all known civilizations. Subtitled in 117 languages. A single title was attached in Terran black font, stamped with the sigil of the Diplomatic Defense Corps. 3-minute doctrine. Let this be enough. in a cavernous underground chamber beneath the U on Earth diplomatic command. The architect of the message stood before a high-level panel. Admiral Koro Tanaka, architect of Earth's outer defense policy, adjusted his coat. This wasn't a declaration of war, he said. It was a surgical demonstration, a controlled threat. The point wasn't to kill it, was to let them live with it. A politician scoffed. You could have de-escalated, prevented the ambush. Koro leaned forward, voice like a knife. No, we needed them to know what happens when Earth sends one soldier with a diplomat. We needed them to ask themselves, what if Earth sent to across dozens of alien worlds? Riots broke out, not in anger, in fear. Citizens demanded to know what else Earth was hiding. Military budgets were tripled overnight. Treaties were rewritten. High councils demanded new intel on every single Terran operative stationed abroad. Earth didn't speak. It didn't have to. In the shadow between suns, the HumAlien Accord, an elusive group of war profiteers and destabilization agents, called an emergency session. They had been behind the original summit sabotage, planning to ignite war between the Kalari and Vu. RATHI. It should have worked. It always worked. But now, one of their lead agents, Kalari Cyan, was dead. Her mind, burned out by contact with Eric. Their leader stared at the footage, paused it, zoomed in on Eric's eyes the moment he removed his helmet, then whispered, "He saw us." Eric Malin didn't dream. He remembered. 3 years earlier. Classified installation, Earth Black Site, Theta-5. The first thing they taught him wasn't how to fight, it was how to stand still, so perfectly still that even your heartbeat listened. Control your breath, said the instructor, or the galaxy will control it for you. Arik held his breath for 5 minutes. On the 6th, they drowned him. Now, in the present, Arik stood in the quiet of a Terran orbital platform, overlooking the spin of a gas giant, like a ghost watching the living. The fallout of the 3-minute doctrine rippled across galactic networks, but Arik had already moved beyond it, because Earth had intercepted something worse. The transmission, the encrypted packet, arrived through a derelict relay station near the Etheri Expanse, an area known for piracy, not secrets. It was scrambled in 12 dead languages. When decrypted, it was a voice, glitching, raw, broken. If you're human, run. They're awake. They never cared who won. We were a test. Then, static. A partial location, a name whispered in the final burst. Garnik's reach. Arik reviewed the signal again, and again. Elira Voss watched him from the other side of the room. Why haven't you deleted it? Because someone knew to warn us, he replied. Her voice was cool. And you think it's bait? He nodded. Exactly why I'm going. She sighed. You're not cleared. I wasn't cleared for Syndrome 9 either. The UNSC Command Council assembled within hours. Admiral Tanaka stood at the head of the table, flanked by high-clearance psychanalysts, military tacticians, and one pale woman in shadows, Director Savan, the head of Division 9, the name, Garnix. Reach made every face stiffen. Tanaka clicked his tongue. No official records. But unofficially, Savan answered. It's where we lost contact with the others. Everyone turned to her. You mean yes? She said coldly. The first Terrans who left the system during the Silent Era. Before the Core Accords. Before diplomacy. Before the leash. She leaned forward. People like Eric only exist because we trained them to stop the ones who came back from places like that. Meanwhile, in the HumAlien Accord's deep vaults, their tactical AI reviewed thousands of battle simulations. Everyone ended the same. Human victory within 5 minutes. Minimal losses. Maximal control. So the Accord changed tactics. No war. No assassination. They would corrupt Earth from the inside. A synthetic whisper echoed across the chamber. Begin infiltration of Division 9. Engage Protocol Ashes in the garden. Back on the orbital platform, Eric stood alone in the deployment. Baya's single ship was being prepped a stealth cruiser, unmarked, stocked for no return. He stared at the loadout, didn't flinch, a whisper of footsteps behind him. "Alira, you're going anyway." He didn't nod, didn't speak. "You're not chasing a threat, are you?" she asked. Silence. "You're chasing them? The ones like you?" He finally turned. "I need to know," he said quietly. "If they ever came back, as monsters." As the cruiser launched, vanishing into slip space, the station AI flagged a buried trace, unregistered ping. Origin, Earth. Subject HumAlien. Released. Observe only. Do not interfere. Garnix Reach was never abandoned. Access level, unknown. Clearance, above Directive Alpha, property of Project Pale-Hour. The approach to Garnix Reach began with silence. No traffic relays, no nav beacons, just a stretch of space darker than it should be. Even the stars seemed to flicker around the system's edge, like light was bending away from it. Eric HumAlien's ship, Vigil 9, coasted forward on silent ion drives, cloaked in full-spectrum damping. No lights, no signals, just one man, one mission, and an atmosphere so tense it could bend titanium. He breached orbit over a ruined moon, charred cities, cratered bunkers, nothing alive. The long-dead remains of a colony meant for expansion. Eric checked the logs. Earth had never claimed this system. Not officially, but buried in the encrypted core of his mission packet was the truth. Garnix Reach, site of Pale-Hour Detachment 3, status, sealed, access, denied to council-level oversight. Even the UN Solar Assembly didn't know what had happened here, but Division 9 did. As he descended into the ruins, his boots crunched over glassified concrete, his visor scanned, char patterns, high-intensity plasma, not orbital bombardment, signs of close-quarter fighting, dozens dead human and non-human alike, most with fractured bones and scorched wounds that didn't match known weaponry. But something else disturbed him more. Some of the bodies hadn't aged, still fresh, still warm. Arik checked the timestamp on his HUD. They'd died minutes ago, but he was the only ship to enter the system in 36 hours, unless they never left. He moved through a shattered blast door, weapon drawn. Dim floodlights from his shoulder beacon lit a corridor painted an emergency red dot down here. The oxygen was still stable. Generators HUMMED. Someone had kept the facility alive. He reached a chamber marked by peeling letters, PHL-3, Control Vault, Pale-Hour Legacy. He entered and froze. The room was a mirror, not literal, symbolic. Standing in the center was a man in Terran armor, same cut, same make. Prototype series obsolete since Arik was a child. But it wasn't the armor that stunned him. It was the stance. Knees soft, shoulders relaxed, pulse steady. The exact posture Arik had been trained in. The man turned slowly, his face identical, not similar. Identical. Double quotes. "You came early," the double said. His voice was calm, older, but the same. "Who are you?" Arik asked, rifle raised but unmoving. "I was the first to pass the final Pale-Hour phase. They called me Ash One. They said Earth wasn't ready for people like us, so they sealed us in." Arik stared. Ash 2-1 continued. "They thought killing the project was mercy, but they kept a few of us alive, down here, just in case." He smiled. Slightly. "Looks like just in case finally happened." Suddenly, Eric's comlink chirped a ghost signal. Division 9 override channel. Only 3 people in the galaxy could access it. HumAlien, immediate abort. Do not engage. That asset is classified. Nell, fall back. Fall back. The transmission ended in static. Another voice followed Ash One's from the same comlink. "Funny. They told me the same thing when you were born." Arik lowered his weapon. "What happened here?" Ashwan gestured to the walls. They trained us to be precision weapons. But they forgot that weapons, ... Observe. We saw things, felt things. He stepped closer. We learned how to resist the programming. One by one, pale hour subjects woke up. Some turned violent. Some vanished into space. He tilted his head, and some of us stayed behind, waiting to see if Earth would ever send you. Eric's fingers tightened on his grip. You're trying to warn me, Ashwin nodded. Because if you don't break the cycle, they'll just make another version of me, maybe even worse. Suddenly impact tremors. A quake. Eric's HUD flared incoming hostiles. Not local. Vessels signatures. Mylan Accord. 3 dropships. They'd found Garnik's reach. They weren't here to learn the truth. They were here to erase it. Ashwan looked toward the surface and smiled. Darkly, I'll hold them. You'll die. I've already done that once. He turned. Go, Arik. Find the others. Pale Hour didn't die. It just learned to whisper. If Pale Hour is still whispering, who's listening? That was Arik's last thought as he launched from the shattered ruins of Garnik's reach, leaving a clone of himself behind to die in his place. Ashwan didn't scream when the Mylan Accord breached the facility. He smiled, because ghosts don't scream, and Earth had buried Pale Hour in a tomb designed to scream silently. In orbit, Vigil 9 broke gravity. Its slip-space drive lit with a blue flash, but as it accelerated, Eric's mission logs were already being accessed, not by Mylan, by Earth. Division 9's core AI. Intercepted the feed in real time. Eyes widened in the lower levels of the Terran intelligence bunker beneath UN command. Dozens of operatives reviewed the footage. To Eric's, the truth of Pale Hour, and Earth's oldest betrayal. The room was silent until Director Savan entered. She reviewed the feed once, spoke only one line: burn the chain. Within minutes, digital trails vanished, mission logs deleted, satellite relays scrubbed, Eric's launch authorization revoked in every register. Officially, he had never left Earth space. Unofficially, he was now the most dangerous variable Earth had ever created. Meanwhile, the Mylan Accord's dropships never made it out. Before they could reach orbit, an unregistered Terran defense satellite activated. No warning, no demand, just annihilation. 6 plasma lances cut through Mylan hulls like wet paper. Autonomous judgment. Violation of Pale Hour containment protocol. Galactic Accord breached. Counterforce authorized. No one had heard of such a protocol until now. 3 weeks later, a summit convened on Eris Prime, neutral ground for 22 galactic powers. The goal: an emergency amendment to interstellar warfare policy. Topic: Earth. What began as fear had evolved into something worse. If Earth had buried projects like Pale Hour, what else had it buried deeper? Kalari ambassadors accused Earth of manufacturing genetic weapons. The Verati proposed isolating the Sol system. One faction of the Mylan Accord demanded preemptive strikes. And then, Earth arrived. No entourage, no fleet. One ship, unarmed. Out walked a single woman, Alira Voss, and behind her Eric, alive, whole, quiet. The room stopped breathing. Voss walked to the center of the amphitheater. Eric said nothing. His hands were empty. No weapon, no armor. But it didn't matter. Every species present had seen the footage. His presence was the weapon. Voss spoke into the silence. 3 minutes. That's all it took for you to see what Earth tried to forget. But Pale Hour wasn't a threat. It was a lesson. One Earth buried when it realized no enemy could challenge us, only ourselves. She stepped back. You want answers? But what you need is a choice. Let this be enough. A screen behind her came to life. Not just footage, testimonies, survivors from hidden Terran units, AI fragments, ghosted logs from abandoned black sites. A full confession, not just Pale Hour, everything project. Sovereign Edge, the Venus Luna rewrites. Earth had been God's end, then erased. Themselves. The room erupted in shouts. Some wept, others demanded sanctions. Only a few understood the truth. Earth had hidden its monsters not to deceive the galaxy, but to protect it. And now, it was asking the galaxy to choose. One cycle later, a final transmission was sent to every corner of explored space. Arik appeared, seated, calm. Behind him, a wall of empty metals, ghosts of classified wars. He looked directly into the camera. Humans aren't faster, or stronger, or older. We're just the only species that knows how to fight its own reflection, and live. He stood. You can prepare for invasion, or you can prepare for diplomacy. But if you threaten either, the doctrine. He turned, walked away. The screen faded to black.